In this episode, we're going to be going over a story that was emailed to me from someone who found me on social media, and they were discussing the difference in stress and burnout. And I take out some identifying details, but it's pretty much relevant and prevalent in not only program participant stories, but in my story too. So we're going to talk through a little bit about what their email is saying, some things going on, and how we can move from this zombie mode and back to liveness, reclaiming that energy. So here's the email. Kelly, I saw your burnout content on social media. I've been telling myself I'm just stressed from work, but lately I can't seem to bounce back the way I used to. Even when I take a day off, I still feel like I can't reset. I used to care a lot about what I do at work and at home, but now I'm just trying to get through the day. How do you really know when stress has turned into burnout? And the reason why I want to bring this up is this was the first couple years of my burnout journey. People hear my burnout collapse story, how bad it got, but they didn't know like 7 years before that was the first symptom. And years before that was my body already screaming that I'm pushing too hard, I'm pushing through everything. And I didn't acknowledge that because in societal norms, you keep hustling, you keep going. And there's a time for that. And then there's a time where it tips you into burnout. So that's what we're going to talk in this episode is how do we go away from convincing ourselves that it's just stress and pushing through, or acknowledging that it is temporary stress? And then when do you cross over to burnout? When do you need to really check yourself and your energy because you're about to go down into the pit of despair of that, the survivorship mode, the body shutting down and emotionally being overwhelmed, the lost state where you just don't know what to do next. So it's interesting. In her email, she put that I can't seem to bounce back the way that I used to. And that's how I felt when it began to turn is I used to be sharp, right? I used to know people's name. I used to know what to do. People would come in with distractions. I would handle them right away. I was at like an on point firefighter. And then that became too much. Every request that started coming in just seemed like an overwhelm, regardless if it was even large. It might have been just a small request or a small piece of information that they needed from me. And it was just like, not now, too much. And every person around me, I started to distrust what they were saying, even if they just had, again, a small request or they're giving me information. I had this distrust. Environmental effect that everyone is after me. And so all these stories started going in my head. And then, of course, the physical nature of it, my hair started falling out, my skin sores, my huge digestive issues where I couldn't even digest food anymore, and then the heart palpitations. So it escalated fast at the end, but you have to remember it built up that way. So let's talk about the difference between stress and burnout. Stress might be too much on any given day or any given week, where pressures, tasks, urgencies, deadlines, maybe even conflict is coming in. And right, you're stressed out, your body is tense, your muscles are tight, you can't stop thinking about it. It's just consuming your energy, your days. But then it releases temporary. So that's the big difference when you're thinking about, am I in burnout? Am I just stress? Stress is temporary. It eventually goes away. So maybe you're taking care of a family member right now and they're consuming a lot of your time. That's stress. But if you take care of that family member, you're their main caregiver for a long period of time, that might stretch you into burnout, into survivorship mode. Burnout is where your emotional reservoirs, your physical reservoirs are gone, right? Whereas temporary, right, you can exhaust those, but then you reset. So a tough week, a tough project, maybe just a tough month at work, right? Stress. It ends. The loop closes. Released. Burnout is that release doesn't happen. So if you take COVID, for example, right? High stress situation, lots of change, lots of chaos. If that would have ended in a short amount of period of time, that stress would have been gone. We reset, but it didn't. It went on for a long time. So you saw people just kind of down, down, down. They went into burnout, into that survivorship mode. And this actually comes from a great example from a burnout book that I read by Emily Nagoski. And she studied burnout and explained what is going on in your nervous system. And it's similar to animals that are getting chased by a predator. So the prey is running like a gazelle. They're running, running, running. If they get free from their predator, the stress cycle is released, right? They go back to grazing, sleeping, they feel safe enough to do so. But say that gazelle continues to be chased by that predator. They have to keep going, they have to keep going, they have to keep going in order to be safe. Their body and their mind will go into survivorship mode. And in that state, there are certain parts of them that just begin to shut down, right? They don't actually stop to eat because they're so afraid of being attacked. They don't sleep because they're so afraid of being attacked. They don't socialize, they don't mate, they don't do any of these things that are natural to their being, to their livelihood, because they are afraid of being attacked by this predator. They were never allowed to release that stress cycle. That's burnout. That's similar to what's going on in our nervous system when stress is not released. So let's break this down into your work and life. You're going, you're running, you're in a busy season of life, right? And that project doesn't end. The next project comes in, then the next quarter, and then the next year. And then you also have all those things going on at home. You're not releasing that stress. So eventually, parts of your body system cannot sustain that type of energy and that type of stress. Your mind cannot get out of that state of high stress, sustained stress. So it begins to also shut down. So in her email, she said something about she used to be bounce back in the way that she used to. So that's where the brain fog is coming in, the decision fatigue. And similar to my story, I started just not remembering information very well. I used to be on it, used to remember things coming out of a meeting. And now, even if I took notes, I don't even really know what the notes are about and what I'm supposed to do next. It's because your mind is checked out and it's in survivorship mode. It's saying, why are we working in Excel? We're just trying to stay alive. So these are warning signs that you're switching from this temporary state of stress, which is actually healthy for your body to go through, into burnout, which is the survivorship mode, that state, and that is very damaging. And that can actually have permanent damage depending how long you're in it. For example, I have recovered my hair, I have recovered my skin, but I had to be very intentional about how I take care of those things, the things that I put in my body. Digestively, I have permanent damage. I have to be very careful about the things that I eat, and I do have now permanent allergies such as gluten and high sugar foods that I no longer can digest without heavy symptoms. So let's talk about the reset. So you've identified if you're in stress, temporary, or in burnout, more of that chronic state, that survivorship mode. What do you do when you start to recognize I'm in burnout? I need to reverse this. And the biggest shift I saw in my burnout recovery is the big energy leaks. Address those first. So there is a lot to address, right? If you're in burnout, it didn't happen overnight. It happened over time. So there's going to be a lot of different things that you need to address. That seems exhausting just in that statement that I made. So let's focus on the big energy leaks. I want you to pick one, maybe two. Is there going to be other things related to it? Absolutely. But man, you're tired, you're exhausted. Let's not dig into all of that right now. So what is the big energy leaks? Is it the workload? Is it that you're being volunteered at work for all these different things? Is it that you need more role clarity to realign to your values and the value adds that you bring? Is it that you need to start establishing boundaries and people to adhere to them? I remember in my burnout state, I already recognized I am not doing well, and we still had to run around to all these family functions. They don't live even close to us, so a lot of travel time with 3 little kids, chaos, right? Extra stress. Holidays, do all the holiday things and all the societal norm things you're supposed to, and the holiday cards and the homemade gifts. Added stress, overcommitment, completely misalignment to what I needed, both mentally and physically at that time. So my big burnout physical collapse was actually right after the holidays. It was in March of 2021, right after the holidays. My newborn was about 7 months old at that time, so that factors in as well. But my big energy leaks was lack of boundaries, overcommitment. And so I had to address that. And then the workload was part of that as well. So where's your big energy leaks? Where do you recognize, like, when that happens, your stress level goes over point? That no matter how you would set up your day, the moment you do that event, that person, that thing, you tip over from stress to burnout state. Like, automatically, you're just drained. Address those leaks first. The other thing I want you to start to think about is, how do you want to approach recovery time, reset time? See, I was doing the screen time at the end of the night. I'm just exhausted. I don't want to read. I just want to scroll, look at screens, things like that. But what I needed was a reset. I actually needed to completely check out from everything, all simulation. And when I started to do that, I started to actually wake up and have a little bit of energy. Now I'm going with all the three kids and work. So just checking out from noise, visuals was my reset at the end of the night. It helped me start sleeping better. It helped me just like check out from the world for just a moment of time. So, what will be your kind of routine, your ritual in which it actually is recovery? I want you to not think about screens. Screens are an automatic cognitive energy drain. I don't want you to think of externally what will people think because no one agrees with this practice except for people who practice it. I don't want you to think about all the things you're losing or if you're getting behind on things or you're losing time because guess what? You're not going to have a lot of time when you're completely burnt out and bedridden. So I want you to reassess your daily recovery rituals. So you're addressing your big energy leak, you're reassessing your resets. And then I want you to talk to someone. And that could be a third party coach, that could be a therapist, that could be your partner, that could be a family member. But I need you to start talking because right now, most likely you're holding this all in to yourself. And it's because you want to push through or have people feel like you're tough, like you can make it through. But what you really need is to get that out. You need a view that's not you to say, yes, you need to reset. Or I didn't know this was going on with you. I'll stop I'll stop requesting so much. And the reason that's so important is 40% of people who are in severe burnout won't ask for help. And I certainly didn't start asking for help or go into therapy until it was too late. And then I got meshed up with a therapist that was misaligned with where I wanted to go and what was going on with me. So then it made it even worse. And I didn't also recognize how I recover, which is more independently, that I needed a couple different facets of growth and recovery to aid my journey. So I worked a little bit different than the programs that were surrounding me. But when I started speaking about it, telling people about like what's going on with me, which means I had to check in with myself and understand what's going on with me, they started honoring my boundaries when they would shoot me an invite to go to family things or to this event or drive here, they would also state if you feel comfortable to do so or if your energy allows, right? So they're respecting that you're still welcome, but I want you to know it's okay if you don't want to. And certainly there was people that wanted nothing to do with my change and didn't like that I was changing, and that's okay to also back away from them. So, if you're addressing your big energy leak, if you are honoring and restoring yourself through actual resets, and you're having a conversation with someone, getting it out instead of keeping it in, those three micro steps are going to begin shifting you out of survivorship mode and reclaiming that energy just one day at a time. So if you're just tired day after day after day, maybe that's stress. But if you're exhausted and you feel like you just can't reset, you can't get that energy back, you might be in burnout. Coming from a burnout survivor, I want you to know you're not alone.